today, but some of us are festive. So if I could please
The
have
ladies.
roll call.
Mr. Finaro.
Here.
Ms. Grieve.
Here.
Ms. Grostek.
Here.
Mr. Hess.
Here.
Mr. Tressi.
Here.
And if I could please invite the Millridge students up to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, yeah. Do they need the mic? Hey, guys. Is anybody else? Is it just these two? Is there one more? Oh, trickling in? Okay, guys. The flag is right here, so we'll have you lead us, okay? So you guys will start it, all right? So whenever you're ready, we'll go. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good.
Nice job. Just stay right there, okay? This bump.
And you guys go ahead and stay up here because I believe we have a wonderful Millridge presentation.
All right. I get to brag about these students up here. But first and foremost, I want to thank our Millridge community for coming tonight. Really appreciate you coming and supporting not only our students but our staff. So I'm going to read some great things about these girls, and hopefully our fifth grader will be able to join. I did confirm that all three were going to be here, but hopefully he's going to trickle in here in a little bit. So we're going to start with first grade and work our way up to fifth. So we have a first grader, a third grader, and a fifth grader. So Eloise, we're going to start with you. You ready? You sure? He has a beautiful shirt on. Does it go up and down and make different colors? There it is. So Eloise Byer, grade 1, is a thoughtful, caring, and extraordinary kind-hearted student at Millridge Elementary. Eloise shares her love with everyone she comes by and is always showing others how much she cares about them. Eloise is also a brave, hardworking, and curious student who shows up to first grade ready to learn and tackle her day. It's pretty impressive. You don't actually tackle, right? You just get going right away, right? She encourages others along the way too. For this reason, her teacher believes that Eloise fits the Millridge Essential number 6 perfectly, which is make everyone feel welcome and included. I'm not done yet, okay, I'm going to keep going. All right. Eloise has a way of noticing how others around her are feeling. She's able to figure out what they need and shows a tremendous amount of empathy at such a young age. When we are playing learning games in the classroom, she looks around to see who might need a partner, but is maybe too shy to ask, but ends up including them. Other students are drawn to her because she shows patience and understanding. Eloise speaks up for other students and makes sure their feelings are protected. She often asks classmates who are looking sad or frustrated if they need help or if they need a hug. And she is ready to offer both. When needed, Eloise will also ask a clarifying question when she knows a friend who might be confused so that others are not embarrassed. She gives gentle reminders to those who need it and encourages others to try their best and follow expectations. Eloise has earned the trust of her peers because of her commitment to making others feel included in the classroom. Eloise shows all the best characteristics of the Millridge Mustang day in and day out, and she is well deserving of the Millridge Elementary First Grade Student of the Month Award. Going to stay up here. Yeah. Picture of Dan. All right, Eloise, come on back up, okay? Come on back up. You get to stand next to Maddie. All right. Do you want me to say Maddie or Madeline?
Maddie's good.
Okay, perfect. All right. That's what I say in school. I just had to ask when the official here. So, Maddie Turk in 3rd grade is the epitome of a Mayfield student. She comes to school every day with a smile on her face, ready to learn. Her ability to collaborate, communicate, explore her curiosity, and utilize critical thinking skills make her an amazing student that we see every day. It is difficult, I agree. It is difficult to pick a Millridge Essential that she exemplifies the most because she's earned house points for really all of them. But if her teachers had to select one, it would be positive and enjoy life. Maddie's positivity is consistently at a high level, and her ability to encourage her peers in a small group setting, no matter the classmate, is far superior to anyone in her homeroom. Maddie is also a skillful reader. one who is quick to answer questions and volunteer some thoughts when discussing a text. This transcends into all subject areas and helps her reach her potential as a student. We are so very proud to have Maddie at Millridge as a Mustang. She has a bright future ahead of her. I can read it, okay, and then maybe we'll do pictures of it. Yeah. All right. So hopefully our fifth grader, Ja'Cory Elliott, will be here shortly, but I'm going to go ahead and read about him. Ja'Cory is a kind, motivated, and hardworking student at Millridge Elementary, and he is our fifth grade student of the month. Ja'Cory has earned the respect of his peers and teachers by consistently making great choices and demonstrating our Millridge essentials. When it comes to the essentials, it would be hard to select one, but number 13, be the best person you can be, is a great description of how Ja'Cory functions each and every day. He is one of the kindest students the team has ever had the pleasure of teaching. He has all the qualities of a great student, hardworking, determined, and motivated. But his teacher's favorite quality of Ja'Cory is his kindness. One particular example of outstanding kindness took place during the Right at School Aftercare program. Ja'Cory noticed that a young student was picked up really late, so he asked if he could get picked up later so his young friend wouldn't have to be alone. This is seen when he comes to Millridge every day with a smile on his face, ready to learn. He never hesitates to help a teacher or a classmate with anything, whether it is helping a friend or just lending a hand in the classroom. He has the respect and care for all of his peers, and deservedly so, they give it back to him. He helps anyone without a second thought and does so in a right way that makes sure that they know they have a friend in him. He's a role model, not only during the school day, but also at the aftercare program and the extracurricular activities. He has an incredibly positive presence that radiates out and influences everyone around him. His positivity is also contagious. It is really impossible to be in a bad mood around Ja'Cory, and I will second that. It is without reservation that he has earned his outstanding choice of Millridge Student of the Month for 5th grade.
Parents come up first, one student at a time.
I think we'll do Eloise first. Yeah.
There you
They do one of the board members.
Ready, Eloise? Love it.
Parents, when you want.
Yeah. Bring parents in. Absolutely.
Eloise, look this way, babe. Ready?
I know, I love it.
Okay. Parents? Yeah.
You want to go first? I'll be last.
All right, ready? One more. Thanks.
Okay, ready, 1, 2, 3.
One more. You ready? Back to your parents. Give our students another round of applause.
I'm gonna do our first grade team first, if you want to come up.
That's just my son who
Oh.
didn't feel like saying inside.
He said he's okay.
I was like, okay for everyone. So we chose to recognize an entire team just because of the teaming approach at Millridge, and we feel that the first grade team really exemplifies that teaming approach. This team is being recognized for their high level of collaboration and commitment to their group of students. They embrace the Our Students mantra each day and consistently provide welcoming environments for all of their students. This team is the epitome of flexibility and adaptability when it comes to student learning and strives each day to personalize learning for all of their students. Through the use of a data-oriented approach with a human element, these teachers discuss how they will map out short-cycle instruction to provide the best opportunity for success for their students. It is an absolute privilege to work with all of them.
Make sure you hang on to the president home.
Put it in a frame.
That's right. You're next.
Ready, one, two, one more time. One, two.
Wait a second. Hold on, get This is one more job. Come on.
Oh, there we go.
Who are we looking at? Right there.
All right, ready, one, two, got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Alice, Julie, Okay, this team is being recognized for their high level of collaboration and flexibility in supporting our students through behavioral intervention. Their passion for working with students to directly meet specific needs is appreciated, and the relationships that they have made with students and families are second to none. Alice, Julie, and Romina do not think twice when it comes to stepping in and ensuring the student feels supported, and they consistently make the right choice to help a student de-escalate in order to become calmer and think clearly about their choices. Their ability to reflect with students and support their social emotional well-being while holding students accountable for positive choices helps students reach their full potential. It is an honor to have them as part of Team Millridge.
Okay, ladies, you ready? One, two, three, one more. One, two, ready? One, two.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Please give our staff another round of applause.
We're gonna tee up a video that I know Mrs. Sinelli worked with a lot of students very hard on. This showcases, I think, really what Millridge is all about, and and how really what Mayfield is all about as well. Starring our kids.
This staff has been talking about the portrait of a wildcat and planning fun activities for us, starting with tactics is important life skills. Mr. Ridley, a first grade teacher, even made kid-friendly posters to help us remember what each vocabulary word the portrait means. Tyler. So being here with the first graders from his sports room, and they are showing me the apple pepper. We both decided those peppers are really cool, Ariane. Can you tell me something else you did today? We measured teachers with them, and we also weighed them, and we did finger and spoke with them, and we ate. Sounds like a day they won't soon forget. At recess, we saw second graders out taking nature walks. Can you just tell us about these walks? Is that huge? In a few seconds, please. Can you tell me about your nature walk? I live in that like trees. Abiotic is things that are not living for an example, like airplane or ambulance or a car. So second graders went outside and observed the abiotic and biotic. They were there and back to you, studio. Our special teachers have also been teaching the portrait skills to all of our students. Let's go to the special talents teams. In PE, students are always working on their collaboration skills. Something different they are trying this year with kindergarten is bringing two classes together for the last 15 minutes of class so students can practice collaboration with others outside of their homeroom. A few activities are set up and students get to choose the one they want to participate in. In the art room, students are being offered more choice than ever before. Fifth grade Camino is here to tell us about this project. We get to choose the art we made and we choose our color. I choose the color. Over in the music room, Mrs. Hillis has been building a segment with the kindergarten and first grade students using I Wonder bags. The kids are very excited and curious to know what will be in the mystery bag each month. These are all the fun things we found in the mystery bag. In the Senate room, fourth grade students have been using the design process to create fall fest games out of recycled materials. On October 18th, these games will be set up for all first graders to come play. I'm here with Ava and Rose to explain how they did the design process while designing games. First, our idea was to have the cups like this. But then we tried moving models down and most of the cups didn't knock down. So now we put them like this, Rose. And I'm going to show you how it works. Rolling a marble down. Okay, now try to aim and you can move this a little bit to aim. And the kids will have 3 marbles racing against each other. First one to knock them down wins. Fifth grade students already has the chance to go to the Innovation Center and participate in all synergy collaboration field trip. In addition to the amazing hands-on all they created, students met through pen pals from other Mayfield elementary schools. These pen pal relationships will help students practice the written and oral communication skills all year long. These special teachers have also been teaching and adapted special for our students with unique learning needs. On some days, peers come into these classes to assist with the activities. I'm here with Morgan and Nicholas as the peers during these lessons. Tell me about the role as a student. I help them glue, cut, and we help them make capsules, and it's very fun because they're very great at making. What have you learned, Morgan? What I have learned is that it doesn't really matter what on math. It matters what they put it on the inside. Thanks, guys. That's all from the special hallway. I heard that kids in 4th grade have also been learning with creative hands-on projects and games. Today was the gummy bear science activity, and Star was not really fun. Working together to solve problems is a great way to learn. Let's take a look at a couple things they did. In 4th grade math, we had the chance to create. And we were able to raise our face on them. And area our teachers is in the 5th grade. Our teachers have looked at things like academics and learning styles so that we can learn with our peers that think what we do. Instead of going to our classes with our homeroom, we are now a part of Forest West. When we learn together and receive what support we actually need, we gain strategy that will help us learn to the best of our ability. Unfortunately, we're out of time on today's episode. Tune in for our next episode to hear about the kindergarten stations that provide students the chance to work on their academic and portrait skills. The Lemonade Project in Miss Makiro's class that showed the students the importance of math in the real world, and the incubator in chicken eggs coming to 3rd grade. Thank you for watching Millridge News.
Thank you very much.
We have some
Thank you.
outstanding newscasters there.
I know, they have a great future.
A great, bright future.
No doubt about it.
Indeed, thank you, Millridge family. Great display of students thinking about thinking and deeply learning. Outstanding. Thank you for sharing your story.
At this time, we'll take just a quick break in case students want to get home, because I know that some of our youngsters would like to do homework. Please note that we are having a special meeting November 10th at 5 p.m. At this meeting, Paul Fallon, a survey research expert and the creator of the survey that was distributed to our community, will provide the board with an overview of the survey results and entertain questions from the board at that time. So that moves us to superintendent's report. Yes,
Thanks, Madam President. Happy to announce next week on November 4th, the district will welcome 50 superintendents and chief academic officers from across the state of Ohio. These leaders are coming to Mayfield in order to learn about our diverse learning modalities that we offer. We have a full day of plan for our guests, and we will even have some of our students facilitating some of the discussion throughout the day. So we're very excited to welcome our guests on November 4th. I have to please see superintendents now.
awesome. That will then move us to committee reports. And the first committee report is student learning and academic excellence.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have 2 reports. I was discussing with Mr. Destino about having an open house with our middle school. So we finally got it together. It's gonna be on November the 12th, Saturday, from 11 to 2. Just anybody can come. We want them just to walk through and see all the great things that have been done to a school that's 100 years old. That being one. So last week we had a team of teachers and administrators travel to Columbus to work with the SOAR network. The team focused on a portrait of a wildcat and the development of capstone experiences that would allow students to demonstrate their growth with each compensity: communication, collaboration, curiosity, and critical and creative thinking. The district staff is excited about this work, knowing that it will lead to deeper learning of all students. Thank you.
Next, we'll move to fiscal stewardship and operations. Mr. Panaro.
Thank you, Madam President. I have 3 items tonight, and I'd like to thank Mr. Nellick and Mr. Snyder for providing some of this information. The district has been allocated $100,000 via a safety grant through the state of Ohio. $50,000 of that will be allocated to the Mayfield High School, and the other $50,000 to the Mayfield Middle School. And second, we had bids for the Millridge and Mayfield High School window replacement projects. They've been received and reviewed. The contract for these projects is on our agenda tonight for our consideration. The company Environmental Glass is the same vendor we used for the Mayfield Middle School window project. I want to remind everybody that we're using the one-time federal stimulus money to pay for these 2 projects. And the last item I have tonight is there was a Sun Messenger article on October 20th, last week, indicating that we will be going forward with a levy in 2024. I would like everybody to understand that this is a projected target timeframe. It is not set in stone. Dr. Barnes and Mr. Snyder have been using this date in their public presentations over the last couple of weeks. So just keep in mind that no final decision has been made on that 2024 date. And I'd also like to mention that this last levy was approved by our voters in November of 2016. And it's amazing to think that over these past 6 years, all the positive and negative things that can affect the levy, we're able to stretch that out to maybe 8 or even more years between this level cycle. So this is an incredible accomplishment. It's due to the fiscal responsibility of our treasurer, Mr. Snyder, and our administration, and the commitment we have from all our union membership in the decision-making of this board. And we're gonna hear more about this from Mr. Snyder during his presentation tonight, and he's also gonna be talking about the capital expenditure fund to address some enhancements and some program items. Thank you.
Awesome. Next, we move to community relations and family partnership. Ms. Green?
Madam President, thank you. I have two things I would like to share with you this evening. The first is the community satisfaction survey is complete and our results are very impressive. The administration will be creating Did You Know graphics highlighting the results of the survey, which you will see soon. In addition, the 2022 quality profile was complete. An electronic copy has been sent to all parents and staff. In addition, it is also posted on the district website and the district Facebook page. The complete report will also be mailed to all households. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, growing leadership and talent and professional capacity. Mr. Hess?
Thank you. District administrators, teachers, and staff continue their work, ongoing work, developing the capacity of our professional learning communities. The professional learning communities is a research-based framework aimed at improving student outcomes. And I think that the presentation we had earlier from Millridge is an example of just how phenomenally well our students are doing at all age levels. So I guess I just say, keep up the good work, all of you. Thank you.
Alrighty. That moves us now to the superintendent's consent agenda, items A through Y. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
And before we move on that, I just wanted to point out that we have several people who are retiring. Monique DePetti from Lander, Joseph Knighty from the high school, Tanya Stepanek from Lander, and Karen Lehagen, Suzer from the high school. We also have Kim Fritz, who is a parapro from CVEC, who is retiring, and we just wanted to thank them for their years of service, and sorry to see you go. We always love family members coming back and visiting, and hope you will. Motion to approve? Oh, we did that. I'm sorry, roll call?
Yes. Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Bree.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Alrighty, that moves us to the treasurer's report, financial statements for September 30th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Bree.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
And next, the financial transactions.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Bree.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
In our next section, donations, I always say my favorite, and I will say, I just wanted to highlight, we had a pretty incredible donation in this section for the Make Your Reality at Gates Mills from the Rig 3 Family Foundation of $19,000 in order to get together some virtual reality equipment. So that is pretty impressive. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Bree.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Next we have the 5-year
All right.
forecast.
All right. I will do my best. I've been told that there's a hook out there that will be brought out if I go too long. So I will do my best to be brief be on point, and be precise. So I would like to also thank Dr. Barnes. Certainly what we do here in the district stems from a lot of the work that he's doing in visioning and mission and the mission statement, as well as developing good visuals that not only show, I guess, the district and its overarching goals, but how it interconnects and aligns for impact, which is the goal, or I guess the theme for this school year. There are 4 pillars. You're going to hear about this in a moment, but I put this on the front of the financial presentation there, I can say it, because it's important to remind ourselves that we're aligning, and student learning and academic excellence is the lead. It's leading everything that we do. It is that seat, if you will, of a stool, a 3-legged stool with growing leadership and professional capacity, fiscal stewardship, and community relations kind of holding that stool up. So I believe I got a clicker here. So let's talk about the nature and purpose of the presentation. This is a slide that I've used often. I know folks say Scott uses the same slides over and over because in the financial world, if you repeat it often enough, it becomes part of the vernacular. So this is a standardized tool. That's all I'm going to mention. It's a plan. None of this is set in stone, but it at least sets a sense of direction. When do we think that we're going to begin deficit spending? How do we think expenditures are going to flow and trend, including revenues? Significantly, it identifies districts that are headed towards financial difficulties. It's a tool that the state uses to monitor the financial health of its districts. The basic philosophy, we evaluate potential long-term outcomes when making current decisions, so we don't live in a vacuum. Already we're beginning discussions about the 23-24 school year, though the 22-23 school year just started. At the last meeting, you approved this year's budget. Now we're talking about a 5-year forecast. I can tell you the cabinet team, central office team, including the building level principals are talking about next year. We're not losing sight of this year, but looking at how we're going to fill these vacancies that were just approved. Those retirements, they're now on a big board, and we're going to evaluate how does that staffing look like. We're also going to talk about how we're going to continue to personalize learning, continuing to align for impact. There will be differences. This is nothing more than a projection. Pictures. I was told pictures are better than numbers after the Gates Mills presentation, so I'm going to show a picture here, and this is one that I think it tells the story of Mayfield. The right side is expenditures, and it's the expenditure mix. The left side is the revenue mix. What's most important about it is 88 cents of every dollar we collect is in local property taxes. Another 6 cents comes from local sources. So we're talking about, what is that, about 95 or 94 cents of every dollar collected is from local, 93, with 7 cents coming from the state. What does that say? Most of our support is local, in fact, almost all of it. Therefore, most of our decision making has to be with that local view, that local lens. On the expense side, it's no surprise, we're a people business. 76 cents of every dollar we spend is in people. In some of the conversations we've had with some of our local communities, most recently in Mayfield Heights, how do you guys look to do, bulk buying? Do you look at things with consortiums? Absolutely we do, but we're a people business. One of the things we're going to talk about tonight is the expenditure trend, and because we are heavy in labor, that's obviously a big cost driver, but I don't mean that as a negative, I just simply mean that's our business. This is a trend line, if you will, of where our revenue is heading. As you can see, it's increasing over time. You're looking at 3 years of actual data, and then beginning at this point, this is all estimates. What's included in that is looking at local revenue, look at the tax base. Do we see new developments? Likely in our community, we're at build out, so not much. We look at our commercial tax base. Again, we're looking at it here and now. We know we've got an interesting economic market, and we're projecting that over the next 4 years. I think at the end of the day, what's most important is we are seeing growth. Our revenue does grow, but only by 1.43% on average. We don't see growth until we pass the next levy. So what we're trying to do is manage those resources within the context of an expenditure line that's much steeper and grows much quicker, largely because we have market forces like inflation. We've got labor forces related to not only salaries, but also the cost of benefits. 76 cents of every dollar we spend is in people. We've embedded into our forecast things that we know, but it's, again, based on a snapshot, based on here and now. What is the cost of bus fuel? What are the cost of utilities? What are the cost of all of those things that are market-driven, as well as those things that we've recently negotiated with our successor collective bargaining agreements? I think the important takeaway here is that it's a 4.32% growth rate. So that's the average increase of expenses. So if I jump back and I said revenue grows by 1.43%, there's a structural imbalance between the growth of revenue and growth of expenses. About 3%. It's 2.89% to be exact. So every year we're trying to evaluate that, or how do we manage that structural deficit while also keeping an eye on our cash reserves, deficit spending, and when we're going to fall off of that financial cliff. I'm going to jump to another graph because, I'll say this about budgeting, and then I'm going to touch on this theme when I talk about the $20 million capital expenditure fund that we're requesting that you guys consider. There's a distinction between fixed and one-time and continuous costs. Can only trade one-time costs for one-time savings, or you can think of it in these terms: I can only spend one-time dollars one time, and I can only trade continuous costs for continuous savings. So when you pass a levy, you're factoring in those continuous and ongoing expenses. If you're looking at a cash reserve, you're looking at that is one time. It's like your savings account at home. So that's an important distinction. I know that the admin team and cabinet get tired of me saying that, but is this one time or ongoing? Is this expense one time or ongoing? Is this investing into this personalized learning permanent, or is this a one shot to try to ebb the tide, get something jump started, and then we're going to revert back to the permanent and ongoing expenses? Talked about that. So this superimposes those two, the revenue trend and the expenditure trend. You got 3 years of actual. We begin to estimate out into the future. What's important to note here is these last 3 years, you notice how revenue exceeds, the green bars are greater than the red bars, which means revenue is greater than expenses. We don't begin deficit spending this year. We expect to have a $618,000 surplus. But beginning next year and each year thereafter, we begin to deficit spend. We begin to spend more than we're currently bringing in. Not because we're a tax and spend organization, it's just simply the mechanics of the way in which school funding works, which I'm not going to go into those details, and also the market that we are currently in. It's a Cuyahoga County market. We've done everything we can, the silver bullets we've used to slow the rate of growth of expenses, but they're still going to grow. One of the ways that you can impact your expenses is if you have declining enrollment. Mentor Schools has seen tremendous reduction in expenses because its student enrollment has declined. We don't have that issue. Our enrollment is steady. It's about 4,000, continues to be 4,000. We expect it to be 4,000. But in this example, or in this projection, we are still solvent out into 26, 27. $34 million is that projected balance. So over the course of this forecast, we're not in a deficit, though we begin deficit spending. So that's good news. Yes, sir. Mr. Bernard.
So we know that the revenue is slowing down. Are we projecting right now any effects that we see from Progressive and that where people are working from home and losing that, or is it too early to see what?
Great question. We are monitoring that closely. Progressive Insurance, Rockwell Automation, and Parker Hannifin, huge corporate players, provide a lot of income tax revenue. They have obviously those corporate offices that provide tremendous tax revenue to the district. Corporate parks, business, and commercial properties the valuation basis is different than residential property because residential is typically based on home sales, but how many of these corporate offices turn over to that magnitude, and how many folks are going to buy the Progressive corporate offices? So they're valued a little bit differently. At this point, Progressive is eliminating or selling 5 of its buildings, consolidating its operations. We've been told, I think, 3 of them were in Mayfield Village, 1 was in Highland Heights, 1 was in Mayfield Heights. We believe based on the conversations that we've had with Mayfield Village, a couple of those buildings are on the brink of being purchased. So we're hopeful that it will be to a for-profit entity, because if it's a not-for-profit, they'll file for an exemption, they'll come off of the tax rolls. It's about $410,000 of annual revenue to the district, but at the moment, that's just a question mark. I'm not certain that that's going to go away, but that's an example. We monitor our tax base quite closely. So Progressive, if they go full remote, then that'll be a problem for us as well. But at the moment, it's too early to tell. But we're watching that very closely. Great question. So you can see we're still solvent. I'm just going to flip to the next slide. So this is the recommendation this evening is to move $20 million out of the cash reserve into a capital expenditure fund for the purposes of funding the following projects. I think I've got it listed here. Minor road alignment, CVEC move, which is the Innovation Center expansion, lander improvements, and center improvements. I can tell you that the estimates currently are not $20 million. We are, as we're developing the scopes, we're leaving We're leaving a gap, if you will, of contingency for unknowns because it's an interesting market. But I'm going to jump back to the graph. The structural deficits are not impacted by taking these one-time dollars and moving it into a capital improvements fund. If we leave these dollars here, the only way that we're going to improve these or impact these deficits is by looking closely at our expenses, which could include looking at our manpower and those operations, or something different happens on the revenue side. Typically, that would be a large housing development, but we're at build-out. And typically, housing developments bring what? That also is like a counterintuitive problem that can occur. So by making this decision, it does not change the structural imbalance, and it does not necessarily jeopardize the projection, the 2024 levy campaign or target, and or 5 mills. It just simply says we're taking 20 out of the cash reserves one time to invest in our facilities, which are also considered one-time expenses because the return on that investment is about 30 years, 30 to 50, depending upon the length. Yes, sir?
Don't mean to slow you down here.
I'm trying to be quick.
But the 20 million that you're requesting to be moved into this fund, if something would come up, would that money be able to be moved back into that reserve?
The short answer is yes. However, whatever we would have already obligated via a contract, no, because that would be considered obligated. Now, the spending time frame of this 20 million, it's hard to determine right now how much of that's going to happen within the next 12 months. 18 months. The caveat is we want to get in the market quick because there's going to be a lot of demand and also supply chain disruptions. There could be a lot of lead times. And with the economic volatility and inflation, time value of money, it's better to either invest or buy that asset now, normally, because it's going to be worth or cost a lot more later. But good question. So again, I think it's important to note, even by transferring the 20 million, we'll still solve it in 26, 27. The levy target is in 2024. This deficit does not change. The deficit spending does not change. We're just lowering that cash carryover balance. And typically, we want to have 90 days of reserves, which is about $20 million in a reserve. As we lead up to that levy, we're still above that trend line with some room to handle something that might be unexpected, like an economic downtick. I think with COVID, one of the benefits that we had was having strong reserves. We were able to go out and buy the technology needed to do remote learning for students and staff. Having cash reserves, it's not a taboo. It shouldn't be viewed as a negative. I think since I've been here, we've had the Great Recession. We've had COVID. I don't know if locusts are next. I'm not sure. But I think this demonstrates a strategic, balanced, and a very thoughtful approach to managing the district's resources. I mentioned that. The concluding remarks that I'd like to make is the operating spending deficit is in 2024 currently. That means next year, 23-24, we begin to spend more than we bring in. Our goal is always to eliminate those operating deficits prior to the collections of the next levy. So right now we're not on pace with that, because if we pass something in 24, we'll get first dollar in 25. But we believe that that's manageable. We're going to continue to focus this levy target in 2024 with a millage rate of 5. That is a commitment we've been making. That's a goal that we would like to maintain. And we want that levy to last more than 3 years. 3 to 5 is the fiscal stewardship and operations, one of our, measures. And I think to get 6, we'll get 8. To get hopefully more than 3, I think that's a pretty good record that we should be very proud of. I know I went longer than expected. Yes. Okay.
Scott, you mentioned that the local property taxes are our largest portion of operating revenue.
Yes.
And you've discussed with other finance people in their cities. Mm-hmm. How is this affecting everybody?
So the property tax, the current market climate impacts the villages and cities a little bit differently because they're predominantly income tax based. So it's really based on income tax payers. I think COVID, now that people are working from home, they're paying the income tax in their home where they live, not where they work. It does have an impact on us because, like as I mentioned to Mr. Finaro, those properties could potentially be devalued. Now, House Bill 920 should say, though, we should be protected from that. But if the property owner just simply sells it, as we look at Eastgate, if those commercial properties just simply vacate, and that's just simply dormant property, which is ultimately devalued, and we lose money. We talked to our local our local finance directors to ask, what economic activity are you seeing? We talked to Mayfield Village. Is Progressive coming back? Along 271, Grappa Farms, 21 homes. They've already got 7 lots sold. I think the average price is about $750 for those.
Right.
So we're asking questions because that will become additional tax revenue to the district. So we look at everything, existing properties, and we look at what's coming. I believe it's Bishop, there's a $30 million assisted living center coming online. I think that thing, I was told it was about, in 23, it should be completed. I'm guessing 24 is when we begin to see some tax revenue.
The other question is, Progressive was going to build a Campus 3. Is that land being sold?
From what we've been told, yes. They're looking to sell that. That was part of the article in Cranes on August 12th, where they were talking about selling 5 of their existing buildings, but also selling the Campus 3 property. What's hoped is they don't sell it to the metro parks, because then it'll become exempt.
Right.
It's got great frontage on 271. It'd be nice if they would find another corporate player to not only provide additional income taxes to Mayfield Village, but also additional property taxes to us. 66 cents of every property tax paid in our school district comes to us. The remaining 34 cents is divided between city, county, and other, when I say county, you can think of not only the metro parks, but the Port Authority, things like that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question about, with all the complexity, we always get questions about the consortiums that we're fiscal agents for. So how is that impacting our 5-year forecast, and where is that most easily seen?
So the consortiums do not directly impact this financial projection. This is based on just simply the operating budget. But we do pay tuition for our Mayfield students that attend those programs. So within the purchase services category, tuition particularly, we have identified, I don't know what page number it is, but in this document, which will be posted on my webpage, you'll see my estimates for all of our consortium programs for Mayfield kids only. For example, Excel Tech, I think, has 246 students that I've estimated. It's about $1.3 million that we pay in tuition. But it's cheaper for us to have a consortium program than to affiliate with an Auburn Career Center, where they would take 2 mills of our local property taxes off the top, which is about $2.8 million, and we're only paying 1.3, right? Yeah, so it's about half the cost. It's the most efficient. But that's where we find it. But I think for the purpose of the community, the kids, the staff costs are embedded in tuition payments for our kids only. So consortiums operate this way: total cost divided by number of kids, unit cost. That unit cost is then attached to each sending district, and they pay their proportionate share. But it's a great question, because we always get asked, where are the consortiums in? They're driving up our expenses, and not really. Yeah.
I know this past spring, 4-year contracts were negotiated for all of Mayfield staff and employees, but I am curious how you establish those budget values beyond this period, for not only benefits and salary, but what about staffing levels going forward?
Staffing levels are always kind of an interesting conversation internally. I think to start there, one of the themes that we've been trying to implement is let's pay less people more money for greater flexibility. We're struggling to find bus drivers. Tonight you saw that we passed 2 MOUs to create some flexibility to find them. We can't compete with large signing bonuses like an Amazon and maybe their hourly rate, but where they can't compete with us is if we provide a full-time benefit and access to a pension. So we're really trying to figure out ways to have our staff become more flexible, do a variety of jobs within an 8-hour day, because to pay for the overtime is cheaper than having to hire an additional staff member and pay $30,000 in an insurance benefit. So that's about the staffing, and I'll share one more element of that in a moment. When it comes to projecting, we use the State Employment Relations Board annual report, and we also then pull our surrounding districts. Our market is Cuyahoga County. Our immediate market is 271. Think of our consortium districts: Solon, Beechwood, Orange, Sugar and Falls, South Euclid-Lyndhurst, Willoughby, Eastlake. That's the market. If people were going to leave us, particularly on the classified side, that's where they would go. On the teaching side, when it comes to recruiting, we want to be within that market. So we look at them when it comes to establishing parameters for negotiations and also the financial picture. But outside of the forecasted period, we're looking at CERB information and identifying what does that trend look like. Because they break it down by state, by region, by jurisdiction, fire, police, school, all sectors of federal government, and then also what are we hearing in our immediate area. So in classified, we do the same thing. For insurance, we've got a 7% rate cap that we've negotiated. So our risk in our health insurance program is 7%, which is kind of, it's a uniquity. I mean, that's not something most districts, in fact, I don't think anybody has. Health insurance on average is about 11% year over year change or growth rate. Our health insurance program is about 13 million. So you can see if it's a 10% growth rate, that's 1.3, that's 1 mil. So we've got a built-in restriction. So we budget 7, but last year the rate increase was 3. The year before that, I think it was 2. We've had a year flat. So we work very closely with our staff and talk about healthcare. Become consumers, not just simply passive participants. When I get sick, then I go. No. We have biometric screening, things like that.
I guess I'm going last because I was waiting to see if you were going to touch on it.
I was going to pass out.
I know that we continue to have various tax abatements with Mayfield Village and Highland Heights. And I was wondering, do we receive any money from the city or village as part of the tax revenue agreement? And if so, how much? And is that included in your forecast?
The first answer is we do. We receive the abatements on file in Mayfield Village, Highland Heights, and Mayfield Heights. The total annual value is about $2.4 million, with Progressive Insurance being the largest payer at the moment. They're about 1.8. Those abatements for Progressive don't expire until I believe 2031. We did have an abatement with Parker Hannafin, but this is the last year. They were paying about $150,000. So collectively 2.4. And then we're very active as we sit on this tax incentive, I talk to the finance directors about who's coming in. They are the ones that can offer the abatements, and they can offer them without the approval of the school board if they go to the state minimum, which I think is 10 years, 50%. So we try to work very closely with them, and I give Mayfield Heights and Mayfield Village a lot of credit because they were ahead of the curve by including the public school district in the abatement process, because what they both did was, we're going to abate greater than the minimums, but we're going to hold the school district harmless in giving us access to their income tax revenue.
Follow-up, if one or any of the buildings that Progressive were to sell, does that mean that they're done with the abatement, or they have to continue, part of the contract, continue to pay that out?
Well, the abatement was attached to the facility, so it'd have to be probably a part of the deed transfer, so it would be a restriction. So that's probably why they're kind of limited. The properties that they're selling now are not abated. Yep. Any other questions?
No, but a very good job. Thank you.
It was an overview. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you so very much.
I would just like to say we're fortunate to have Mr. our Treasurer, Chief Financial Officer. His ability to anticipate, educate, create a financial literacy throughout the organization, listen with intentionality to the conversations around teaching and learning, and our quest to raise student achievement and growth, and then figure out a way to allocate the resources in those attack areas with fidelity is greatly appreciated. So just wanted to say that.
Hear, hear.
All right, that moves us to the 5-year forecast approval. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, Mr. Hess, Mr. Teresi.
Roll call.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Next, we have establishing the capital projects under Ohio Revised Code 50705.13C. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Next, we move on to other treasurer's business and the minutes of the regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Grosek brought to my attention, I failed to include your comments from the last meeting in the committee reports and updates. I will amend the minutes to insert them, but since they didn't necessarily impact any of the legislation, it doesn't require a follow approval, because they're really just simply your comments related to your committees, not necessarily a legislation that was adopted, so.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro? Ms. Grieve?
Yes.
Ms. Grosek?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Next we move to the addition of the cell phone stipends.
So moved.
Roll call.
Mr. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Grieve?
Yes.
Ms. Grosek?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
And the PSI Affiliates Incorporated change form for St. Francis. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Grieve?
Yes.
Ms. Grosek?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
And the College Credit Press, oh man, I'm having trouble talking today. College Credit Plus Program Agreement with Kent State. Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Grieve?
Yes.
Ms. Grosek?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
And in other business, we have the approval of the window bids for the environmental class.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Roll call.
You guys are ahead of me.
Fenaro and me.
Got it. Okay. Mr. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Grieve?
Yes.
Ms. Grosek?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Nilek, you got work to do.
Can they put the windows in tomorrow?
Last but not least, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Roll call.
Mr. Teresi?
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Grieve?
Yes.
Ms. Grosek?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.